All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the noon briefing. For those who may not know me, I'm Stephanie Tremblay, one of the associate spokespersons in the office, although I think most of you know me, and I know most of you. As you know, the Secretary General is convening here right now the Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot leaders, as well as representatives of the guarantor powers of Greece, Türkiye, and the United Kingdom for an informal meeting on Cyprus. This morning, the Secretary General held bilateral meetings with the heads of the delegations. There's a plenary meeting that is taking place right now, and this will be followed by a working lunch. The concluding session will take place this afternoon. I have an update for you on Syria. Our colleagues from the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs say that as of today, nearly 2,000 families have been displaced from areas impacted by violence in Sweida governorate. That is according to one of our local partners. These families are currently sheltering in a dozen collective sites. Many are unable to return home due to damage, looting, or destruction of their residences. The health system in Sweida remains critically strained. Hospitals in neighboring Dara governorate are also overwhelmed. These facilities are operating without power and facing severe supply shortages, with some patients transferred to Damascus. Reports indicate that at least 2 doctors in Sweida were killed during the recent clashes, and some health facilities have been used by armed groups, endangering patients and staff. We and our partners are mobilizing to deliver humanitarian assistance and to assess needs as security allows, and we are also engaging with the interim authorities to facilitate access. The World Health Organization has dispatched 35 trauma and emergency surgery kits, enough for 1,750 interventions, but many remain undelivered due to access constraints. The Interim Health Ministry has also mobilized medical supplies to be sent to the area. We urge all parties to protect people caught up in the violence, including by allowing them to move freely to seek safety and medical assistance. Security forces must respect applicable international law, norms, and standards throughout their operations. And as you all know, this afternoon there is a Security Council meeting on Syria. On the UN Secretariat side, Khaled Kiari, the Assistant Secretary General for the Middle East, Asia, and the Pacific, will brief Council members. And we've been asked about reports of an Israeli strike that hit the Holy Family Church in Gaza, and I can tell you that the Secretary General strongly condemns today's strike on the Holy Family Church in Gaza, a place of worship and a sanctuary for civilians. Attacks on places of worship are unacceptable. People seeking shelter must be respected and protected, not hit by strikes. Too many lives have already been lost. There's an urgent need for an immediate ceasefire and the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. The Secretary General calls on all parties to ensure that civilians are respected and protected at all times and allow humanitarian aid to flow into the Gaza Strip at scale. And meanwhile, our colleagues on the ground tell us that Israeli strikes over the past 24 hours have hit sites hosting displaced Palestinians, with some of them injured and killed. Our humanitarian colleagues at the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs say that between the 8th and the 15th of July, more than 11,500 people were newly displaced. That brings overall displacement since the latest escalation of hostilities on March 18th to over 737,000 people. That is about 35% of Gaza's population. Over the past 21 months, our colleagues say that nearly everyone has been displaced, in many cases, multiple times. As a reminder, most housing in Gaza is flattened or otherwise uninhabitable. Many families stay out in the open because we have not been allowed to bring in tents and other shelter materials since early March, as we have been saying to you several times. In a worrying development, we are hearing from our colleagues that many displaced people have been hesitant to bathe in the Mediterranean this week. That is after Israeli authorities reinstated a ban on access to the sea along Gaza's coast, specifically prohibiting swimming and fishing. OCHA says that for many, the sea has been their only option to wash, as there is barely any functioning water infrastructure and almost no fuel to pump water, a much-needed outlet in the hot weather in Gaza. Finally, on the fuel situation, OCHA reports that the amounts that Israel is allowing into Gaza are still nowhere near enough to keep life-saving services running. Shutdowns are still a real risk. There was a small but important step forward today that we need to mention. For the first time in more than 135 days, we were finally allowed to bring in some benzene, which powers ambulances and other critical services. That is in addition to the limited amounts of diesel allowed over the past week. But it's not enough. We're calling for more fuel, both benzene and diesel, to come in regularly, and the ban on shelter materials needs to be lifted immediately. Lives depend on both. And just to flag, yesterday afternoon, I imagine that most of you have been following the session at the Security Council. So our Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Tom Fletcher, told Security Council members during the briefing that we are beyond vocabulary to describe conditions in the Gaza Strip. Food is running out. Let me start this again. Food is running out. Those seeking it risk being shot, and people are dying trying to feed their families. In the West Bank, he added, loss of life and livelihoods, movement restrictions, and growing displacement continue. He called for civilians to be protected wherever they are, for the release of hostages, and for humanitarian aid to be allowed at scale. For her part, Catherine Russell, the executive director of UNICEF, focused on the situation of all children who've suffered since the beginning of the present conflict. The equivalent, an average of 28 children are killed daily in Gaza, she said, the equivalent of one classroom every day. You can think about that picture in your head. She called on all parties to immediately act to protect children. Now, the UN peacekeepers in southern Lebanon continue to observe Israel Defense Forces activities in its area of operations, including airstrikes and ground military activities. In one such incident yesterday, 20 Israel Defense Forces soldiers crossed north of the Blue Line and conducted military exercises near the village of Ula. U.N.I.F.I.L peacekeepers have also heard several explosions, including one today near the mission headquarters in Nakura. The peacekeepers have continued to discover unauthorized weapons and ammunition caches at several locations in the area of operations, including one site at a demolished house containing rocket launchers, rocket-propelled grenades, mortar rounds, and ammunition boxes. Yesterday, our Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Janine Hennis-Pleshert, and UNIFIL Head of Mission and Force Commander, Major General Diodato Abagnara, met with the Lebanese Army's South Litani Sector Commander, Brigadier General Nicolas Tabet in Tyr. Ms. Hennis-Pleshert and General Abagnara underlined our commitment to supporting the implementation of Security Council Resolution 1701, including strengthening state authority and helping restore stability in southern Lebanon. As part of UNIFIL's support to the Lebanese Armed Forces, UNIFIL peacekeepers yesterday trained with Lebanese Armed Forces personnel in Tyr. The training aimed to enhance the operational competency of the Lebanese Army personnel and to promote the exchange of techniques, tactics, and procedures. And now turning to Iraq, where I'm sure you have, like us, seen the news today. And I just want to say that we join our colleagues in the UN Assistance Mission for Iraq in extending our sincere condolences and heartfelt sympathy to the families of the victims of the tragic incident that struck the city of Kut as a result of a devastating fire claiming the lives of many people. We express our strong solidarity with the people of Wasit Governorate in this profound loss, and we stand ready to provide all possible humanitarian support and assistance to help mitigate the impact of this tragedy while reaffirming the utmost importance of protecting human life. Now turning to Ukraine. The humanitarian community today launched its 2025-2026 winter response plan as the country braces for another winter amid escalating hostilities and ongoing strikes on critical infrastructure. The plan, which requires nearly $278 million, aims to provide winter-related support to more than 1.7 million people. This includes 356,000 people who are displaced and 1.3 million war-affected residents at risk of extreme cold between this coming October and March of next year. The focus is on 4 priorities: supporting vulnerable people near the front line, facilitating evacuations, responding to attacks, and assisting displaced people in collective centers. Key winter support includes shelter and non-food items and water, sanitation, and hygiene, as well as health and food security. Meanwhile, our humanitarian colleagues tell us that missile strikes and drone attacks have continued across Ukraine. In the town of Dobropilia in the Donetsk region, a strike killed and injured civilians, according to local authorities. The attack damaged more than 300 apartments and disrupted electricity and mobile internet services. Aid workers provided emergency shelter materials and psychological support to those affected. Since the start of July, Dobropilia, which is home to more than 22,000 residents, has suffered nearly 40 attacks. Meanwhile, in the Dnipro region, attacks also reportedly killed and injured civilians in Dnipro city and in frontline areas around the city of Nikopol. There were reports of rescuers injured while assisting civilians. Across the country this year, we, along with our humanitarian partners, have continued to deliver vital assistance to vulnerable people in frontline and neighboring regions. Now, turning to Sudan, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warned that the humanitarian situation in North Darfur state continues to rapidly worsen due to relentless conflict, flooding, and the collapse of essential services. Heavy rains and flooding that happened on July 14th and 15th displaced more than 400 people in the state's Dar es Salaam locality, which is located to the south of El Fasher, destroying dozens of homes, according to the International Organization for Migration. Displaced families are now sheltering with host communities who are themselves struggling to cope. Meanwhile, violence continues to take a devastating toll on civilians. Yesterday, 5 children were reportedly killed during shelling in El Fasher, where fighting continues on multiple fronts. The day before, shelling of the Naivasha market in the famine-stricken Abu Shouk camp reportedly killed 6 people. The conflict has crippled people's access to food, medicine, and health care, with many health facilities damaged or destroyed. The El Fasher Maternity Hospital, the only major hospital still operating in the area, is overwhelmed with patients, critically short-staffed, and severely under-resourced. Food insecurity is also rising sharply. The cost of the local food basket has risen by 15% in just 1 month and is now more than double what it was this time last year, according to the latest data from the World Food Programme. The lean season, which runs between now and October, is pushing more families towards hunger, with market disruptions and limited incomes making food increasingly inaccessible. We continue to call for an immediate cessation of hostilities, the protection of civilians and humanitarian personnel, unimpeded access across both borders and conflict lines, and increased international funding to respond to this escalating crisis. And for his part, I just want to flag, and you may have seen, our colleague Volker Turk, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, has renewed his calls on the warring parties to ensure safe, sustained, and unimpeded access to humanitarian aid, including through humanitarian pauses, and to prevent and repress violations of international law. And finally, I have a senior personal appointment for you. The Secretary General announced today the appointment of Guang Kong of China as his new special envoy for the Horn of Africa. He succeeds Anasarwa Tete of Ghana, to whom the Secretary General is grateful for her leadership and dedicated service to the organization. Mr. Kong brings decades of international affairs experience to this position, with over 23 years of service in various UN peace operations. A significant portion of this time was dedicated to the broader Horn of Africa region. He currently serves, as you may know, as Deputy Special Representative for South Sudan and deputy head of our peacekeeping mission in South Sudan. And now, after all of these notes, would you believe that we are short-staffed? Yes, Pam, go ahead.
Well, Steph, beautifully done. So on the Cyprus meeting with Greek Cypriots, Turkish Cypriots, 5+1, we've heard a lot about what it's not. It's not a or at least sources say it's not a continuation of last one. It's not a new one. It's not for reunification, but for, can you flesh out what the purpose is and where did it start? Was this the SG saying, let's see if we can resolve this crisis? Was it the parties coming to him? How did it start and what is the goal? Thank you.
They met, as you know, in March in Geneva. This meeting taking place right now was agreed upon during that previous meeting in Geneva. Now they just started their plenary meeting, and I will not speculate on the outcome because they just started really today. And, you know, you will have, I am pretty sure, more to hear and more to report about this meeting when it's over later today.
Okay, and no stated purposes? I mean, to cooperation?
Absolutely. It's an informal meeting on, it's dialogue, and let me keep it at that for now. They're talking, and you will have more later.
And you expect later today or tomorrow?
We will keep you posted. Later today we'll keep you posted as the meeting evolves on what will be available from our side, and of course the delegations will also reach out to the proper services to identify their own opportunities.
Thank you.
Yes, and then Serife, and then at the back.
I have two questions, if I may.
Yes. I don't think I recognize you, though.
It's my first time.
It's your first time. Did I see you in Geneva?
No.
No, okay.
No, you did not. Maybe
I did
someone
not.
else. So my name is Mohammed. Hi, I work for Al Ghad News TV channel in Cairo.
You work for whom? Sorry.
Al Ghad. It's in Cairo.
Okay.
Yeah. So my first question will be about Gaza. I hear you calling for the allowance of the humanitarian aid, and we have heard that multiple times from UN representatives and Security Council. Is there any thing the UN is working on to allow humanitarian aid to enter Gaza, as we have seen the suffering of the people right there?
I think, and were you listening to the Security Council briefing yesterday?
No.
Where Tom Fletcher, and I strongly invite you to read his full remarks that he delivered yesterday. Every day we have colleagues on the ground, colleagues at various levels, engaging with Israeli authorities to negotiate access. You see today, I think if you follow this briefing, every day We highlight what we're able to do. We highlight what we are not able to do. And this is an ongoing process to negotiate access, calling for more access. I think you heard in the note, and I will not repeat what was in the note. It's something that we do daily. You said you had a second question.
Yes, the second one is about the session. Sorry?
Oh, yes, take your microphone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So the second one is about the session that is going to be today at 3 p.m. on Syria. Is it going to be a briefing session only, or there is a decision could be made according to what's going to happen and according to what we're seeing right now happening?
So this is a briefing, a session of the Security Council, an open briefing which you will be able to follow. Any outcomes you should ask the Security Council themselves. But we will have, as I mentioned, we will have the Khaled Khiari, who will brief on our behalf. Serife.
Thank you. Stephanie, I would like to ask you about the reports that there are some armed Druze groups in southern Syria's Sweida province, and they have apparently forced dozens of Bedouin families to flee their homes today, and despite the ceasefire agreement between the local factions and the Syrian government. In fact, many families were reportedly forced out at gunpoint, with some incidents involving killings and injuries. Do you have a reaction to this?
Let me just refer to what the Secretary General said on that. We unequivocally condemn all violence against civilians, including all the reports of arbitrary killings and any acts that can fan the flames of sectarian tensions and rob the people of Syria of their opportunity for peace and reconciliation after years of brutal conflict. And that call that we issued remains the same today.
I do have one more question,
Yes.
if I'm allowed to.
Yes.
You also mentioned today that the Secretary General strongly condemns the strike on the Holy Family Church in Gaza. Does the Secretary General have a comment or a reaction to Israel's attempt to alter the status of the Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron? Because the Israeli media has reported that Tel Aviv has removed the Hebron municipality's administrative authority over the mosque and reassigned it to a settler council. So is there a reaction to
I
this?
have not seen this specific report, but we always call for the protection of all religious sites. But I will leave it at that because I have not seen that specific report. Let me go to the back, and then Deji, I'll go to you.
Thanks, Stephanie. I have a quick follow-up on Gaza. You just mentioned that for the first time in 135 days you were able to deliver some fuel. At the same time, Steph told us, I guess, a week ago or so that your team was managed to bring about 75,000 liters of fuel. So what kind of fuel was delivered like a week ago?
What, sorry?
What kind of fuel was delivered a week ago?
So
If it's now benzene, you said, and like
So
diesel?
let me double check on exactly. I don't think clearly it was not benzene. I'm assuming it must have been diesel, but I will double check because we need. But today I can tell you that it was 75,000 liters of diesel and 35,000 liters of benzene that were brought in today. But I'll double check on exactly what type of. You
Thank
see,
you.
we're becoming very, very specific with fuel. Deji.
Yes, Stephanie, on Syria, it's a very, well, for me, it's very confusing and chaotic, so please help me figure this out. First, is there any activity or contacts from Mr. Geir Pedersen to parties, not only in the Syrian Authority, but Israel, as well as tribes maybe from the Druze and Bedouin? Did he had any contact?
So I checked with his team again this morning, and what I can tell you is that he continues to work the phones today. He and his team on the ground, they continue to remain actively engaged with all parties to address the situation there.
Secondly, if we remember correctly, according to Security Council Resolution 2254, HTS is still a terrorist group, but this head of the terrorist group is now the president of Syria. How is the activity between UN and the Syrian government is going on? Like in what extent? Because we used to hear Steph always said we have to do our humanitarian work, but now it's more than humanitarian work.
And I think Steph kind of gave an answer to that question yesterday, saying that there's been international engagement with that interim government, which includes us. And again, just like he said yesterday, in any country, when you're in charge, it comes with responsibilities. And so we have our colleagues who are engaged in the political process who continue to engage and to do their work to advance.
Will Secretary General urge Security Council to reconsider the designation?
I don't have anything on that.
Okay, one last thing also on Syria, because we know the Israeli attack. It started this attack as well as it started the attack on Iran for many for different reasons. Does the Secretary General consider maybe the current Israeli government is a threat to international peace and security, and also the threat to the nominee of Nobel Peace Prize of President Trump?
The Secretary General yesterday has been very firm and clear in his condemnation of Israel's escalatory airstrikes in Sweida. We've heard our reaction to other events happening in the region. Again, as we said yesterday, as I can repeat today, what we're calling for is de-escalation. We're calling for any, having no action that can incite more violence, and this is what we remain with. Yes, Sinan.
Thank you, Stephanie. A follow-up to Deji's question, as we know, HTS is in a terrorist list, and also it's been recognized. So it's a little bit odd. I mean, does Secretary General recommend to Security Council to reconsider this? Should they be removed from the terrorist list, or they should be unrecognized? I mean, what he suggests to Security Council in this case?
Let me get back to you on this for more details, okay?
One more, if you don't mind, if that's
please.
okay. There are reports and evidence indicating that Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, the Salafi jihadist organization in Syria, has recruited and used child soldiers in Sweida lately, especially in latest clashes in Sweida. First, I wonder if you received any reports, reports. If not, what's the Secretary General's reaction to these allegations or reports?
I have not seen reports that we have received on this. I invite you to check also with our friends at UNICEF and also at the Office for Children in Armed Conflict to see if they have received any reports on that. The position of the UN is very, very clear on the recruitment and use of children. This is not this is something that we condemn, and there's, as you know, there's a whole mandate, Security Council mandate, that is dedicated to ending this practice. Yes, at the back.
Yes. This is Yun Zhaopan from Xinhua News Agency. I'm also new here. My question is about Cyprus. You mentioned just now that the Secretary General is meeting with the separate Turkish and Greek leaders. So does the Secretary General expect any breakthrough at the meeting this time?
The meeting just started, and we will keep you posted on anything unfolding towards the end of the day. So we'll have more on that.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions online? Let me see. I think Abdelhamid, are you there?
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The bombing of the church, but I think you failed to mention that 3 Palestinians were killed in the church. So why? I mean, I'm very sensitive when it comes to numbers. Palestinians are not just non-existent. 3 Palestinians were killed in the church. Why that was not mentioned?
That, the condemnation includes, of course, a condemnation of the people that were killed. And that's the statement that I have, Abdelhamid, on this.
Stephanie, yesterday I wanted to ask Stefan about the 21 Palestinians killed in the stampede looking for food. And also it was not mentioned. Are you aware of that incident? And I came out in the briefing of Mr. Tom Fletcher.
Yesterday, Stefan talking about how we condemn the fact that people are getting killed trying to get food. And I hope that you listened to the Security Council briefing this afternoon, yesterday afternoon, where Tom Fletcher had some very strong words about this, saying how unacceptable it is for people to die while they're trying desperately to get food.
And lastly, Stephanie, if I may, Samir al-Rifai was arrested on July 10 from a village in the West Bank. He died today in jail. That means 10 days after he was arrested. He's number 74 of Palestinian prisoners killed in jail, either by torture or by medical negligence. Why the situation of Palestinian prisoners hardly ever come out in your briefings?
There should be, as we've said repeatedly, Abdelhamid, there should be an investigation of all these incidents, including this one. And of course, people should not be dying in jail. Are there other questions in the room? If not, thank you so much, everyone, and have a good day.